right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:31 p.m. Welcome to the Planning and Zoning Work Session of Monday, November 4th, 2024. Did anyone sign up to speak on any items listed on the work session agenda?
No one signed up. Please proceed.
All right, thank you. Is there any additional report on the City Council meeting decisions of October 24th besides what was in our packet? No? Okay. And then report on the Planning and Development Committee meeting of October 24th, 2024. What is there on that?
I wasn't able to attend the meeting, and I forgot to follow up on the link for the recording. So
Okay.
I can do that this week.
Okay, great. So then next time we can.
Yeah.
Have-
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, great. Then review of the public hearing items.
Okay.
All right.
You have two items on consent agenda for approval. It's the minutes from September 30th and October 7th, and Plat 2024-304-PL. Then you also have two items for consent agenda disapproval. Be happy to answer any questions on any of those items.
Any questions on the consent agenda items? Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
Great. Let's go on to the individual items.
First individual item is zoning case 2024-149-ZC.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jason Gillis, Planner, presenting zoning case 2024-149-CC. This is currently located at 706 Bollywood Road. It is currently zoned RTH for townhouse residential, and the applicant is requesting to rezone to SP2R6 for generalized site plan single-family residential 6 to allow two single-family structures on one lot. Staff recommends denial, and we have seen no letters in support and one in opposition. Here's the aerial map showing the house and the second structure, single-family home in the back. Originally, this house was built in 1955 and has been modified over time, while the second structure was built around 2015 without permits, as it was intendedly wanting to be used as a garage, but was later converted into a full living space. Here's the future land use map. Here's the surrounding zoning map showing the RTH zoning district. It was zoned RTH around 1974, and as seen on the aerial, it is currently used for single family, as all of these lots currently are. Here's the notification map, protest analysis map, and then here is the site plan. So just to get some background for the structure and how it kind of came about. So around in 2015, work was started for the rear unit to be a garage. Originally, the owners were required to remove the second floor as it had a loft, leaving an unfinished attic space, as the height of this structure is 19 feet. But the owners ended up modifying it and never contacted the city for a final inspection to that change, and nor did they contact the city when they turned it to a single-family home. It was around February 28, 2024, when code enforcement spotted the structure and noticed the violation, that they had converted the rear detached garage into an additional dwelling unit. And that is when, after seeing the change, they gave the violation for the 864 square foot structure that has 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen and living room space. And as seen on the site plan, due to this being a single family lot and they're asking for single family zoning, it does not allow for 2 single family buildings on one platted lot. So they're asking for a variance for that. And then also they're needing a parking variance, as the original home does allow for it to only have 1 parking space, but since this is a new structure, they need a 2-car garage and 2 off-street parking spaces, requiring 5 spaces. And the new structure, even though they are able to provide 5 total off-street parking spaces, they're not able to provide a garage based on the requirements. And here's the floor plan showing that what the first room would be designated as the bedroom, a second room, third is the bathroom, and then being office space and the kitchen. Here's the subject property showing the rear structure. Here's the second structure that was originally a garage and then converted into the single family. Here's the back of it, the inside, and then here's west of subject property, south of subject property, north of subject property, and staffs from traffic, fire, water, and inspections have reviewed this case, and water did make the comment for the second unit and must connect to the main home services if this does get approved and have to go through permitting. But based on the configuration and it not meeting the R6 requirements, staff does recommend denial for the second dwelling unit and sees no undue hardship for the parking. And I'll be happy to answer any questions for this.
Any questions on this item? All right, looks like, keep going, thanks.
So for the next case, if it looks familiar, this was the zoning case that got postponed from last P&Z meeting. So this is zoning case 2024-239-ZC at 310 West 3rd Street, currently zoned HCD NMU for Heritage Crossing Neighborhood Mixed Use. And they're wanting to rezone to SP1 HCD NMU for detailed site plan Heritage Crossing Neighborhood Mixed Use with a variance to allow 3 residential units on one lot and a variance to allow parking to the side of the house. Staff does recommend approval, and we have seen no NSCRH hardship for the variance to the parking location. We have seen no letters in support and 3 in opposition. Here is the aerial map showing the property, which is the existing single-family home and the detached building in the back. Here's the future land use map, the surrounding zoning map, notification map, the probe test analysis map, and then here's the subject property more up close so you can see currently the single-family home and then the single-family home in the back. And then here is the new site plan showing, based on last time it showed that they were having the parking in the alley. They did switch it based on P&Z's comments to have it on the side and showing the new construction, which would create this into a duplex. And because of HCD, multiple units is allowed, but since this is not one unit looking as like a single family home, they are needing a variance for it to be one single family structure plus a duplex structure and 3 units not all being attached. And also in HCD, parking is required to either be through the alley going to the rear of the property or leading to the back through a driveway. And since this is not doing that, they are needing a variance to allow the parking in the side, but they are not needing a parking variance as is in the last submittal for the last P&Z, they were needing a parking variance. Here's the subject property rear and side, and then you can kind of see here where this is where the driveway and the new parking would be on this side of the property. West of subject property, north of subject property, east of subject property, and here's the site plan again. And staff can support this case, and we have seen no traffic, water, and fire have reviewed this and have no comments on this, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for this one.
Questioner?
Yeah, I got one question. I noticed when it was presented to us the last time it was brought forth, they said they were going to use it for employees at the salon, et cetera, but the letter of intent says it's going to be used for long-term rent property?
Yeah, from my understanding, the long-term intent is to be able to rent it out, because I believe this existing apartment is being rented out currently, and that would be what the second unit would be used as well. But unless the owner knows something, if there's something else they're more looking for, any additional.
In my opinion, and this is just my opinion, this is just another way to do an ADU. And we have been turning people down that do have hardships, want to move their grandmothers, elderly parents, et cetera, into another dwelling unit on their property, and we have said no about that, but yet we're considering letting people build multiple houses on one property.
I had a question. One of the comments from one of the nearby residents who protested pointed out, this is in the Heritage District. And they had seemed to raise a question about what the purpose of that title in Heritage District is intended to convey. Is it intended to convey that it will be maintaining the sort of single-family, more small-town sort of look of that area? But that seemed to be conflicting with what I understood to be the zoning for this property, that they are able to put duplexes, multiple, I forget how many they can put in altogether.
It's about 4 units.
Okay, I did remember correctly. 4 units. They could tear down that main house and turn this into 4 units, all just as long as they're connected together, which certainly would not maintain a sort of small town kind of feel to it. So I wondered if you could comment on that issue, just to clarify for us what the purpose of that designation is.
So the Heritage Form-Based Code, the Heritage District, so Heritage Crossing District is the actual official term of it, is the area not surrounding the rail station, but just kind of starting at the rail station going south. There are 3 sub-districts in the Heritage District. You got the transit mixed use, which is along the rail station, near the DART area, near the clock tower. You get into the commercial mixed use, which is along Irving Boulevard and 2nd Street, and then the rest of it is neighborhood mixed use, which is primarily neighborhood, and some small offices, some small commercial, not any retail though. So the intention of the Heritage District is, it's a mixed-use district, is to, the code was written to help bring energy into the downtown area. We just finished the reconstruction of Irving Boulevard to make it more walkable. So the goal is to revitalize the heritage area. So it's not particularly we want to keep that small town feel. We want to keep the culture of the Heritage District, but we also want to make sure that we have some opportunity down there of people to make investments to bring some rejuvenation to the area.
Thank you. Any other questions?
If this was tore down, and let's say they did build a 4-unit house there, duplex, townhome, whatever, they would have to meet the criteria of the building ordinances within the Heritage District and follow that protocol, correct?
Yes, yeah, Heritage has its own set of uses, standards, setbacks. They'd follow all of those.
But based upon this plan, all they have to meet is what's there now and not meet that, correct?
Right, that's what the variance is for. And this, by requesting the variance, they're keeping the existing home. So that's why we saw that as a plus. We have the number of units they could have allowed by right, but we're not losing that existing home that has been in place. So it's kind of it's a good situation because we aren't completely starting from a demo and, building a little bit differently.
And the new construction still, other than that it's not connected to the main house, it's otherwise complying with the building code requirements for the Heritage District?
It will have to. It will have to.
Okay, so that's the only, those are the 2 variances that we're talking about. One is that it'll be the main house separated from the then 2 units. They are currently separated from the 1 unit. And then that the parking, essentially that the driveway to the parking is coming from 3rd Street rather than coming from an alleyway or in the back.
Well, the requirement is the parking be in the rear.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so this parking is on the side.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
so if they were going to comply with the parking requirement, they would have to put it down basically where the construction is
That's
happening.
correct.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it as what a triplex or a fourplex would be a single unit, and then the park would be in the back, and that's just really not possible here.
Okay, so it's not that the driveway is coming off of 3rd, or it's just where the parking spots are?
Correct.
Correct, yep.
Correct.
Any other questions? No? All right, going to the next one.
All right, Good evening, Haley Riddick, planner. I'm going to be presenting the 2024-298 ZC case. This is located at 1916 Meadow Glen. They're going to change their zoning from the single-family residential 6 to a generalized site plan to allow a carport within the front yard setback. Staff finding after review that there's no undue hardship. For public comment, there has been 1 letter in support and none in opposition. This is the aerial of the property, so the corner lot in a residential suburb. The future land use is the traditional neighborhood. And then you can see it's surrounded by R6. This is the notification map, so all the property owners that were notified. And then the site plan. So they're wanting to do a 20 by 20 carport. So this would create a 20-foot variance. So their front yard setback would go from the 30 feet to 10 feet. With the peak elevation of being 12. And then this is surrounding carports that are in the neighborhood. We have one that was built right next door. And there's a few straight over on Meadowdale and then one on Pearl. So this is the subject property, the side of the subject property, the west, so that's the neighbor that has the carport already existing, east of subject property, and then north of the subject property. And I'm open to any comments or questions.
That other carport, the one next door, when was it built?
I believe it was 1999. Let's see. 1993. So it's old, but
So
it
it's
was done with a permit.
It was done with a permit?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? No?
All right.
Thank you.
Cool. And then I'm going to be doing this next one. So the 2024-351 ZC, located at 525 East Pioneer Drive. They're wanting to go from single-family residential 6 to a generalized site plan with a variance to the minimum lot width and minimum lot area for a transitional lot. After review, staff finding has found no undue hardship. For public comment, there's been 1 in support and none in opposition. So this is kind of the area of, or it is the area of the property. Future land use, traditional neighborhood. And then you can kind of see the zoning. Most of it is R6. You do have ML20 just south of them, so they're kind of neighbors across the street. And then you kind of have CC going further west. This is the property owners that were notified. And then this is kind of a visual of what we did for the calculations. So the numbers in blue are blocked in blue. That is the lot area. So after taking the lot area from all those, averaging it, that's where you get that 16,375 square feet. If you get to the 80%, which is the minimum that they would have to do, it'd be the 13,103 square feet. And then kind of same with the orange blocks. It's the lot width, so we took that average, ended up being 99 feet. With the 80%, it'd be the minimum 79. And so for their site plan,
Oh, I just want to, that slide you had just before, that was great. I really like all the numbers on that. That's very helpful for being able to see the comparative sizes.
perfect, yeah.
Just
that
want to
was-
mention that in case I forget.
Okay, yeah, I believe Kim put that together, so yeah, it was done really nicely. And so, yeah, this is the site plan. So what they're proposing is going to be bigger than what the R6 standard would be, but it is smaller than what is required by that transitional lot, the lot compatibility. So for the lot width, instead of the 79 that is required, they're requesting 65. And then for the lot area, instead of that 13,103 square feet, they're wanting to do the 12,025 square feet. So this is the subject property. This is the east, so their neighbor. West of subject, so their other neighbor. And then this is kind of the ML20 I was talking about. That's across the street. And then open to any comments or questions.
Any questions?
You know, this property here is, the one on the back, Elwood Street, runs parallel with Pioneer. We just approved one at the last meeting, and council approved it to drop the lot size down to 51, 52 feet, I think it was. I really don't see an issue with the 65, dividing it up. I'm very familiar with this lot. I do have major concern, though, with the ingress and egress of these lots due to the fact that the business across the street is Owens Corning, and between Joffrey and Nursery, but on 2 days a week, you're going into oncoming traffic. And so the ingress and degress is where my concern is. The width of the lot, I'm okay with personally, but the ingress and degress, because cars are going into oncoming traffic there consistently. And it's been something that's been brought up numerous times to the city, the police department, et cetera. I just don't know about having cars backing out like that. I think it's going to be a real big hazard.
The day I walked or drove down through there, there were 18 tractor trailers lined up on that road, coming in or going out of that, covering up every one of those houses.
What does traffic have to say about it?
I mean, Owens Corning's been there for quite some time. It is an issue. I mean, you're going to have some traffic from the old ML20 that doesn't really meet today's standards. So really, this just comes down to the land use decision and what you think. I mean, residential is a low traffic impact. However, there are conflicts on the roadway.
Well, we have had problems with it, and they went out and put up no parking, no stopping, no standing signs up, but nothing's never enforced through there with traffic or with the local police.
Yeah, we can put the signs up, but it is the police department that is the enforcement part of those signs.
But they're not gonna be able. I think the challenge is them trying to back out. And so they'd have to have some kind of way to turn around in front of that property to be able to come out forward.
I think if you had some kind of, the problem is that, well, 65 feet, I think by building inspections, you can take and do a curved driveway. I think that would be safer if the cars could go head out instead of back out, because it's very dangerous there. Even when you're driving down Pioneer, you still have to go into oncoming traffic the way it is right now. And if you have an 18-wheeler blocking you and you're pulling out, you're liable to get hit. So I think, like I said, I don't have an issue with the width of the lots. It's just my concern is the safety of whoever buys them houses backing out onto that road.
Any other questions? No? All right, we can go on to the next one.
So the next case that I am presenting is Comprehensive Plan Amendment 2024-353-CP. The location is 2131 East Irving Boulevard and 2501 East Shady Grove Road. The comprehensive plan calls for traditional neighborhood, and the applicant is requesting for it to be changed to manufacturing warehouse. Staff does recommend denial, and we have seen no letters in support and 3 in opposition. Here's the aerial map showing the 2 lots, which is a 0.4 acre site with a single family home on the northern lot and vacant on the southern lot. Currently, the future land use does call for traditional neighborhood, and as you can see in the future land use, it is predominantly traditional neighborhood to the west and then predominantly regional commercial to the east and to the south. Here's the notification map, the subject property, north of subject property, east of subject property, west of subject property, and south. And then I want to go back to this. So zoning for this site was in 1997 was SP1 ML20 for a detailed site plan for light industrial 20, allowing both single family residential and light industrial uses, and I'll be able to get into that into the zoning case. But as you see in the surrounding, it is predominantly a traditional neighborhood and commercial area. And based on the requirements from the future land use, that be physical appropriateness, adjacent residential, and non-negative traffic impacts and appropriate transition, staff does not believe this meets criteria E regarding appropriate transition between non-residential and residential uses, as this would be a complete change to the future land use being manufacturing warehouse, breaking the traditional neighborhood and regional commercial. As well as, based on staff analysis, we do believe that manufacturing use is a way more intense future land use to what it's surrounded by, and this could negatively impact this approval, could create pressure for further warehouse development in the future due to this change. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on this, or I can go to the zoning case.
Why don't you go on to the zoning case? We can ask questions all together at once.
So for the zoning case, it's 2024-352-ZC at 2131 East Irving Boulevard and 2501 East Shady Grove. Currently, the zoning is SP1 ML20 light detailed site plan, light industrial 20, and single-family detached residential uses. And the applicant is wanting to change it to CW for commercial warehouse. Staff recommends denial, and we see no letters in support and 3 in opposition. So here's the aerial map again showing the single-family home and the vacant lot. Here's the future land use. And here's the zoning, and I want to go into a little bit of history about the zoning to understand how it kind of got here. So this property was annexed around 1951, which it had a local business zoning that was in the surrounding area. And then the industrial zoning came in around 1974 and 1987. And during that time in 1987, they allowed for the ML20 light industrial use, but also including single-family uses. And as you can see with this site plan, it shows here, this was the site plan approved in 1987, residential or commercial use on either lot. And based on this, there was conditions including no parking in the rear, no requirements for adjacent commercial properties to provide screening, since it did have a light industrial and single family detailed site plan. And the applicant did want to do something different than what was approved by the site plan, and that's why you're seeing the case today in the rezoning to commercial warehouse. And also based on the adjacent properties to the west as well, these are all zoned R6. This property is zoned ML20, and then these properties to the east are also ML20. So it is to the east more of a light industrial area, but everything to the west is residential, and this property, even though it's zone ML20, is a residential property. And really the only commercial is east and south to the property. Everything west and north is residential, and with the church on the corner. Here's the subject property, as you can see here, the east of the subject property, so that residential property. West of the subject property, the other residential property, and then north. And then here's south, showing some of the industrial, that's from the vacant lot. And then based on the comprehensive plan amendment, staff cannot support this case, as from going from traditional neighborhood to manufacturing warehouse, we do not feel like it is compatible with the surrounding area. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on this.
Any questions?
I have a question for staff. Jocelyn, I know you wasn't around in 1987, and I was still you're a very young man. But based upon what you know, ML20 uses were pretty common go-to zoning back in the day, weren't they?
Yeah, they were. This was actually, when it was brought in, it was actually originally Zone G, local business, under the old 209 zoning ordinance, the old 209 zoning ordinance. And then in 1966, it was changed to ML20. And then the current site plan was approved basically the 1974 basically recodified the existing ML20 for some reason. And then the current site plan was approved. In the case, they were actually originally asking for single family on it. There was no house. The house that had been there had been destroyed, had been demolished, and they were going to move a new house onto the property. And P and Z at the time balked at the idea of having single-family zoning there. So they came up with the idea of doing ML20 and single-family, and basically limiting where the ML20 could go would be in the footprints of those two areas.
But
So
back in
that
the day,
was-
back in the day, that was very common to go to ML20 on a lot of the commercial properties. And as they're changing up, we're rezoning them and putting them in the proper categories, right?
It was, I don't want to say it was common, it wasn't uncommon, let's put it that way.
So that's to say that it was ML20 isn't an indication that that was really the ultimate goal for the area. It was just that was a convenient way to label it at the time
Yeah.
and leave the options open.
Yeah, it was when they were converting the area originally from the 209 to the 1144 zone, from the old zoning ordinance to the quote-unquote new zoning ordinance, they transitioned the G zoning, which was local business, to ML20. And that's where it became quote-unquote industrial from that point forward.
And ML20 back in the day was a very flexible zoning. It allowed for a lot. You could do it a bunch of different things with it, correct?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much what it is now. I mean, what was there before was a house, and the house was at some point demolished, and then they wanted to put a new house on, and that's where they end up having to go through a zoning change, because the ML20, the residential was legal non-conforming once they put that on in 1966.
Okay, on the house or the property to the west, I just drove through there and it looked vacant and like they were doing some type of work. Do you know what's going to be happening with that property?
I believe you're talking about this property right here.
Yes, actually the dumpster is right there on the front right now. So, and are they able to convert that property as if it's an ML20 right now? Can they put in there a warehouse or? So they could if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So, so right now, do you all know if that's going to be the intention of what they're trying to do there?
We don't know. We can, I don't know, Wade, if you're able to pull up any permits. Probably not right now, maybe later. But it looks like if they were going to redevelop it into industrial, the house probably wouldn't be there anymore. So they're probably just remodeling the house for residential.
And it looked like some other houses on that street had been remodeled or redone. It looked like some people had really put some investment into that area in their residences.
Now, I'm not sure because they really clear out the back as well. The back, I mean, you can see the dirt that has been moved. I mean, it looks like they're going to try to build something. I'm not sure if actually they're going to keep the house. But on the subject property, are they able to put a warehouse on the south lot?
So they would have to adhere to the detailed site plan. So technically, yes, they can put on the south lot, but it would just have to be based on what the detailed site plan said. This layout and how that would be, but yes, but they are wanting to replat the property and do one warehouse on the lot. So they don't want to keep it two separate lots.
And what about the house to the east?
So that one, this current house, they would be able to change it to a different, to the ML20 if that was what to a light industrial use, if that was something they wanted to do.
So their
But they would
neighbors,
have to go through the, depending on what they want to do.
I mean, it looked like they had a lot of cars on the back, out of a store, or just when I stopped by there. I don't know if that's actually residential or commercial. I actually don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it could be. It looks most likely could be commercial, but it could be residential as well.
And also, I think they're proposing, according to their letter, I think they read a letter somewhere, their egress or an egress to be from the Shady Grove. I was just there. I mean, I don't think that's the best part to have it, honestly. I mean, the traffic was coming fast down the curve. I have troubles parking over there. So, but at the same time, I mean, by looking at this, I mean, their neighbors can put a warehouse if they wanted to. Pretty much that's what I'm understanding right now.
Yeah.
So to tell them no, I don't know. I mean, I believe I don't like this in warehouses, industrial without a buffer zone or anything, but this is so, I don't know, unique. It was, those are my thoughts on this.
Jace, do you want to go to the show the property to the west one more time? Yeah, looks like there's some active permits, very, very recent permits that were pulled like last week for sewer main replacement, roof replacement, and a couple other things. So that's what they're doing on the property, on that property.
Any building permits?
Yeah, permits for sewer main replacement and re-roof?
But meaning like to build a new structure?
No. But they're replacing apparently like 200 feet of sewer main, so.
Thank you for looking into that.
Any other questions? No? Great. Let's go on to the next one.
So the next zoning case is 2024-356-CC at 1900 Marketplace Boulevard, Suite 110. It is currently zoned SP2CC for generalized site plan community commercial, and the applicant is rezoning to SP1 RAB, detailed site plan restaurant with the tenant accessory use, the sale of alcohol beverages for on-premise consumption. Staff does recommend approval, and we have seen no letters in support or in opposition. Here is the aerial map showing the suite in red being a 7,525 square foot lease space in the Hunter Plaza Shopping Center. Currently, this suite is unoccupied, and the proposed tenant is going to be Mandira and Masala Bar and Restaurant with the KNSA Foods and Retail space currently. Here's the future land use map, the surrounding zoning map, and as you can see, there's a couple SP1 RIBs in the area, the proposed notification boundary, and then here is the site plan showing the suite again. As in the definition of restaurants is defined as a public space primarily serving food with permanent seating and kitchen facilities, which they plan on having. And the establishment for SP1 RABs is to have a minimum of 40% of sales from food or non-alcoholic beverages. The applicant states they were able to meet those requirements. And then here's the subject property where the suite intends on being. East of subject property, one of the restaurants in the area. West of the subject property, and then the site plan. Proposed establishment meets all the alcohol distances from religious facilities, schools, hospitals, and residents. And since the development is consistent with the comprehensive plan and requires no variances, staff can support this request, and I'm happy to answer any questions for this zoning case.
Just one question. That's what I had questions because of that school that's on the corner there. What's the distance there?
They gave me a distance map, and it was greater than the 300 feet, since it has to go from door to door based on the road, but I don't remember the exact feet, but it did meet the requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
Question, I guess that's just more of a curiosity. So let's say this tenant moves out in 10 years from now. Does a new tenant have to apply for a new permit, or that stays?
Yep, that stays at SP1 RIB, so as long as a restaurant goes in there, another restaurant can go in as long as they're adhering to the SP1 RIB requirements.
Thank you. Also, is there still there, was there a liquor store there?
So yeah, there's a liquor store next to it, that the retail store that just opened recently, that's next to it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right, on to the next one.
So the next zoning case I have is zoning case 2024-362-CC at 5000 West John Carpenter Freeway. The current zoning is SP1 CP for detailed site plan commercial park, and the applicant is wanting to rezone the SP1 CP detailed site plan commercial park and hotel uses with variances. Staff does recommend approval, and we see no letters in support and in opposition. Here's the aerial map, and to give some history on this site, it is a 1.90 acre site that was previously developed as a hotel. The hotel caught fire back in 2022 and was demolished. But based on this hotel was built originally in 1997, and that was before a lot of even the first hotel development standards in 1999 and the current ones today. And if the applicant wanted to stick to that hotel, they could build it exactly as it was before, since it did get burned down, but they are wanting to do a new design with a new brand introduction and new layout. Here's the future land use map, surrounding zoning map, notification map, and then here was the adopted site plan in 1997. And then here is the new proposed site plan. They're proposing a 4-story, 121-room Live Smart Studios by Hilton extended stay hotel. And just wanted to go over some of the variances. So this column is what was approved originally in 1997. This is our current code, and this is what they're currently providing. So a minimum, they had 101 rooms in the original hotel, and now they're providing 121, and that's about a 79-room difference from the current standards, but it is an increase from their previous site plan. And this applicant did state a big reason for the variances is due to the original lot's limit expansion and the Hilton brand new change for not including restaurants or meeting spaces. So that's a big reason for the minimum size of meeting space, not meeting the current code, recreational facilities, lounge area, and then they also need a couple variances from commercial park due to lot coverage, and commercial park does have a restriction of 3 stories, and they're wanting to do 4 stories, and then the parking setback from State Highway 114. Here's the subject property, northwest of subject property, southeast of subject property, and then staff can support this request as it does align with the modernized hotel market. And since this is not an additional hotel, but just replacing a previous hotel, staff does see this as being a fine replacement, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for this.
Questions?
I have a question. When a building is tore down, what makes this lot unique where they do not have to follow the current codes, UDC codes, as far as the 200 units? We've had a lot of people bring forth different hotels, motels, et cetera, and they did not meet the 200 room requirement, and ultimately did not pass. But what makes this lot here unique where they can just rebuild what they had without following the current codes?
So it's because of the detailed site plan that was approved in 1997. So when something gets burned down, it says it in our legal nonconformities, especially since this is a detailed site plan, that it has to adhere back to exactly how it was. So since this got burned down, they could build it exactly how it was before and not have to adhere to the requirements because of the detailed site plan, and they weren't under the current codes. But they are wanting to do something different, so that's why you're seeing it today.
So they could do just 100 rooms then?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, everything in this first column they could do right now and wouldn't have to come through P&Z or council.
Any other questions?
Is there any other hotel in the city of Irving that has 0 as a
The meeting space?
meeting space and 0 lounge area? And I think he had another one that no pork kosher. Is there any other hotel?
Yeah, we can't think of any off the top of our head. This one's a little different. They intend for it to be more of an extended stay. We were looking on the website, so it's a new, kind of a model type for Hilton. So, I don't think I saw the word micro apartments, but they intend for it to be longer than a normal hotel. So I think that's why they took out those other amenities, because it's a little bit of a different product.
Do they have a kitchen?
Yes.
Sorry, this is curiosity again. What caused the fire on the last hotel?
Derek, do you know what caused the fire on the hotel?
I can't remember the cause of this one. I know why it burned though. The main valve on the sprinkler system was corroded and it didn't open. So that's why it spread so fast, but I can't remember exactly how it started.
Out of curiosity, from a city level, there's no like variance for having that required meeting space or the lounge area?
There is.
There is?
Yeah, that's what the middle column is. So that's what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, city council went through a process of kind of rethinking the hotel standards.
Right.
And so what you see in the middle are the standards that we follow
From a city level?
from a city.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So if you can meet all the standards, the current hotel standards, you still have to go through the SP process just to complete it and let,
Right.
everybody know what's going on. Typically, people do request variances when they're going through that SP process. But there are minimum standards.
Okay, thank you.
But this piece of property, I'm guessing you probably couldn't meet the current requirements if you were going to put a hotel in that space.
You'd have to go
It's just
up.
two, you have to go up, but it
Yeah.
can't go up over 3 stories without a variance. So in terms of strict compliance with current UDC, it's either what they had in 97, something with variances, or not a hotel.
And that's right by the airport,
Yeah.
so it's not gonna be able to,
Yeah.
yeah. Behind it is all UPS, FedEx, and all of that.
Jason, I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is there no difference in what number of parking spaces that they wanted?
Yeah, they're able to meet the parking requirements. But
From the original Comfort Inn
Oh, yeah.
requirements?
yes, because they're increasing. I don't know the exact number difference, but they are increasing the amount of parking to be able to meet the 120 rooms.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't recall seeing this plan in our notes, but is this more like, I hate to say motel, but like a travel place where you can park outside your room and then come in, since there's no porte cochere, central location for them to sort of unload and protect their property while they're moving into the hotel for an extended stay, or can they?
I don't believe so.
Looking at their website right now for the Live Smart. Think more like a Staybridge Suites kind of thing from the outside, so it's internal corridors. They have, they call them apartment style studios is what they call them, with a full-size, the kitchen, to answer your question from earlier, full-size refrigerator, dishwasher, 2-burner stovetop, microwave sink, and pots and pans. That's quoting from their website.
Yeah, I noticed on their notes, they said medical suites, and I'm like, well, where would they be going, other than the Proton Center, which conceivably would be a long-term medical stay? And, just so everybody knows, if you're staying in a hotel suite for more than 30 days, there's no hotel tax paid. So, I'm not sure what else could go on this land. It's a small piece of land surrounded by other hotels. And it's a step up from the old Comfort Inn, so it's not a bad, it's not a bad proposal. It's just recognize that extended stay, there's no hotel tax that comes into the city as a result of long-term stays. It's possible being close to the hotel, they wouldn't be staying long, and so therefore there would be hotel tax paid.
They should also have a grab-and-go breakfast area, and lifting like you would typically see in a hotel, so.
Any other questions? No. All right, well, let's go on to the next one.
Good evening, Commissioners. Gina Costanza Grant with the Planning Department. The next case is 2024-364-ZC. It's located at 2701 East Grauweiler Road. They are requesting to rezone from MFW Freeway and State Highway 183 overlay to SP2 FWY Freeway and State Highway 183 overlay. They are requesting variances to both the landscape and site design requirements of the 183 overlay district and also to the minimum parking requirements of the off-street parking requirements in the Unified Development Code. The staff recommendation is approval of the proposed rezoning to freeway. However, finding of no unnecessary hardship that was evident for the proposed variances. Public comment forms, we did not receive any in support or in opposition. And this is an aerial of the subject property. If you'll just kind of keep in mind, there are 3 existing buildings and that large parking area on the west side. You'll see how that will change when we get to the proposed site plan. This is the notification map, the surrounding zoning map. You can see there is a large parcel of MFW to the east, PUD 6 to the north, and kind of a mixed bag of commercial and light industrial to the south. The future land use plan does designate this area for industrial uses, so the request is in conformance with the future land use map. And this is the proposed site plan. In this particular slide, the orientation of the property is a little flipped. 183 would be to the right. And because this is not a detailed site plan, it's a generalized site plan, there are no building footprints that are shown on the plan. They are just listing at the top of the page the table requesting the various variances that they are asking for. This is a view of the site plan that is oriented where 183 is to the north. And I'm just going to bring this up because the next case is related to this one. The applicant for this also owns the property to the north. However, that property is located within PUD 6, so it has a completely different zoning category. And that is undergoing a separate request that we will hear next to change the zoning to the most similar category that will allow them to develop all 50 acres as a whole. The property we're considering now that's on the south has about 37 acres, and there are an additional 13 acres in that parcel to the north that lie within PUD 6. This is their illustrative site plan, so it's not anything that they can be tied to because it's a generalized plan, but they did want to give you all an idea of how the buildings would be laid out and proposed. Right now, as you remember in the first slide, there are 3 existing buildings. To our knowledge, the site has been vacant since 2020. It was the former site of an Excella technology facility. It was a warehousing with office, and then before that, a company called Bank Tech. So the property has been vacant for quite a number of years, and the applicant proposes to develop 5 new buildings, 4 of which will be on the southern 37-acre tract, and then 1 that will be on the northern tract that's within PUD 6. These are the variances that the applicant is requesting. Two of those are from the requirements within the 183 overlay. That district has a requirement that for any parking lots with more than 100 spaces, that the applicant is to include internal pedestrian walkways that connect the main entrance with the public sidewalks surrounding the site. The applicant is requesting instead to only provide sidewalks from the entrance of the principal building to the ADA parking spaces within the lot. The second variance from the 183 overlay district standards is regarding the requirement for a minimum of 50% of the total required trees to be located within the interior of the parking lot and not distributed around the perimeter. They did request that 100% of the trees be able to be installed on the perimeter instead of throughout the parking lot. Regarding off-street parking requirements, they have requested a variance from our manufacturing and warehouse parking standard, which is 1 space per 1,000 square feet of floor area, to 1 space per 2,000 square feet of floor area, so 50% fewer parking spaces. And this is looking at the subject property from Maryland Drive. This is looking at the subject property from East Grauwaller. And this is looking to the west from Grauwaller and to the east on Grauwaller. And the staff does take the position that since the requested zoning is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the use allowed, one of the uses, and the use is allowed in the existing MFW district by right, staff does report or support the rezoning request to freeway. Staff does not find evidence of a hardship for the requested variances, therefore we are not supporting those. And I am happy to take any questions or comments you have.
Can you go back to that chart with the variances they're requesting? Oh, yeah, no, yeah, that one. So which end of the building, the first one that they're wanting to not have a connection to the sidewalk, to the road, to the public sidewalk, which side of this facility is going to be the entrance?
I'm not positive, but hopefully they can answer that for you. I would imagine that each building would have its own entrance, but I think the one that's on 183 is the one that would house the main office space. While the other buildings may be more warehouse related, but I'm honestly not positive.
Okay. And then on I had questions on the other two variances they were requesting. Did they give any particular reason on the other two why they felt it was necessary to have the trees on the perimeter, or why they didn't think they needed as much parking?
Yeah, we had originally included that in the staff report from their letter of intent, which was not very detailed. It was more like, we are just asking for these variances. However, I did have a lengthy phone call with the applicants last week after they saw the staff recommendation, and they did provide a lot more detail to me that I think they will convey to you tonight in their presentation as to why those variances are indeed justified.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Or why they feel that they're justified.
Yeah. Any other questions?
On some of the variants, the way the buildings lay out, from what I'm seeing, is this going to create another issue with fire and the fire hydrants and all that stuff? Are they putting all that inside the perimeter in order to?
Since it's not a detailed site plan, we are not addressing any of that at this point, but fire did have informational comments just related to the zoning case that they would be required to meet all fire codes at the time of building permit and/or plating.
So the building layout could change or be moved or twist around. This is just a concept.
Correct.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Is that to the north east? Is that a retention pond, a detention pond? Or what is?
They are anticipating having to have on-site detention.
Okay.
Of course, all that would have to be worked out when they subdivide the property, when they replat. Excuse me, all of that would be taken care of during the civil engineering review.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No?
All right, we'll move on to the next one.
Great, thank you.
2024-365-DVP, same location. Existing zoning is PUD 6, and they are requesting approval for a development plan for FWY freeway uses and also to allow variances to the requirements listed in Appendix B related to PUD 6. Those are related to building placement, building design, and site design, and as well as a variance, the same variance to the minimum parking requirements for industrial development. The staff recommendation is for approval of the proposed use and denial of the proposed variances. No comments were received in support or in opposition. I do also want to point out that since this is a development plan, the final action rests with P&Z, and this will not go forward to City Council. So this is the aerial of the tract we discussed previously that's to the north. It is vacant, but has been under the same ownership as the tract to the south for many years. This is, again, the future land use map, and the request is in conformance with it. This is the surrounding zoning map, the notification boundary, and the development plan. As many of you may be familiar with, in any of the PUDs that we have, the planned unit developments, the way to establish the base zoning district is through a development plan. So in PUD 6 in particular, they just divide the land uses by tracts A, B, C, and D. And when you look at the PUD 6 requirements for those specific tracts, it then specifies further zoning categories that would be appropriate for those particular subtracts. So in this particular case, the property is located in subtract C, and that tract does recommend freeway as well as ML20 and ML20A as some of the proposed uses that would be compatible. And again, this is the site plan or visual that shows the parcel in relation to the property to the south. And again, the overall illustrative site plan and the summary of ordinance or of variances for this particular request. Regarding the variances under PUD 6, they are requesting a variance to the requirement for a minimum of 50 feet of the primary street frontage for any development, to have buildings within 60 feet of that front property line with that principal entrance located on that frontage. They are requesting instead that the building frontage can be within 150 feet of the property line. Another variance from PUD 6 requirements is the maximum one row of parking spaces in front of a building. They are requesting at least 2 rows of parking spaces be permitted. Another variance from PUD 6 is designated pedestrian access ways connecting the public sidewalks to the primary building entrance. So that's very similar to the one for the 183 overlay. And again, they are asking for no public connection to the public sidewalks that are adjacent to the site. And again, regarding minimum parking requirements, they are requesting 1 space per 2,000 square feet of floor area rather than 1 space for 1,000 square feet of floor area, so 50% reduction. This is looking at the subject property from the intersection of Maryland Drive and East John Carpenter Freeway. And this is looking west of the subject property. This is looking at the subject property from the access road. This is looking north of the subject property. And also, again, looking at the subject property from Grauweiler and East John Carpenter Freeway. This is looking east. And back to the site plan. Again, the staff is recommending approval of the development plan to establish freeway zoning. It is consistent with the comprehensive plan and also an allowed use within the subtract C of PUD 6. We do not find that we can recommend approval of the variances to the PUD 6 standards. And there was no evidence that the building must be further set back from the right-of-way that's necessary for the 2 rows of parking. Staff also does not support the variance to reduce the parking count since the site is large and can physically accommodate the required parking. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions on this part of it?
Is this being built by an user that they are asking for the parking because they know this is what they're going to be needing and using? Or this is just a developer building this, trying to find tenants for the property?
I am not sure if they have a specific user in mind, but you can absolutely ask them during the public hearing. They may be able to shed some light on that.
Any other questions? No? Great, thank you. I think that's our last of the public hearing items. Next on our agenda is report from commissioners on the APA, Texas APA conference that just happened up in Allen. Who was able to attend this time? All right. Anything to convey that you got from any of the talks you went to?
I will. I think the 2 highlights that I saw, I attended one of the meetings from Houston where they were revitalizing their Main Street, which I thought was very interesting because they are also going through the process of trying to balance the small businesses that's on their Main Street as well as with the construction. So it made me think a lot about out here on Irving Boulevard when we had all the construction going on. So that one was very interesting. And then also Rockwell is going under some development and trying to develop a lot of their open areas. And also working on their comprehensive plan. And so they did a briefing there. One of the things that they also are looking at is building some of the smaller homes, those small single-family homes that a lot of developers are talking about. So those were the 2 conferences I was able to attend.
Yeah, I attended on Thursday. I did do a mobile tour of one of the developments in Frisco. It was really unique. There was different types of housing, everything from single family to multifamily to, it was very, very interesting. I think that they definitely put a lot of thought into it, but it did make me appreciate the fire department a lot more because they've been having some issues with their narrower streets. So, but it was very unique just to see so many different types of housing all together. So that was very, I think, forward thinking in some sense. So that was really interesting. Some of the sessions I attended were, I attended one, I think we were in it together with like the Amarillo case study and then also the Fort Worth case study. In regards to just like the different zoning approach that they were going through, I guess. And I think for Amarillo, what I really appreciated was they really took the community's input very seriously, and they made a big effort to get their like community connectors, right? And so I think that's something that we could also do, I think, as a city too, is just to get more community input, but going out into the community to make sure that people are aware, you know, the different type of development that could be going on, and if that's something that they want in their immediate area. So I did like that part. So.
To piggyback off of Priscilla, they also had as far as the community involvement, they went as far as getting the community engaged with, okay, here's our comprehensive plan or one that we're working on. Where would be your ideal areas for this? And it was a whole workshop for them. And then they were like, whoa, I didn't realize how fun that this would actually be or what all goes into the planning. And now I can see the vision that Amarillo is wanting to set forth. Yeah. I thought that I went to a couple of the seminars where it was with Denton and how they are wanting to expand their music scene out there and get some variances in place as far as like having it be multi-use zoning, residential, and then the commercial, and how retail space, and how, well, if they were going to continue having the live music, what type of variances or things in place to get that zone. So I thought that was pretty interesting as far as their music scene. Austin was also in that same workshop, and they went as far as like saying the different type of community engagements that they do, which I thought that was pretty fascinating and interesting. So those were mine.
Thank you.
I was able to attend a couple of days as well, and I think my take on the classes, there were a few, I mean, pretty good ones, and I guess one of the best ones I went was the tour of Collin Creek Mall, what it was former Collin Creek Mall, and how they are planning to redesign that whole property with multifamily retail and kind of living actually part of the structure of the mall. And I didn't know there was a creek running through Collin Creek Mall. I guess I should have. There is a creek under it. I was quite interested to find that out. We were able to go into one of the model homes that they have. Also, went to a class that they were talking about pretty much how to generate more, I guess, money for the city, how to build in smaller lots and two-story homes and instead of a single-story homes. Also by the city of Dallas with parking, and they're really trying to find parking in downtown Dallas, and trying to find different methods with the meters and how they're trying to actually maybe increase the how much you pay, how long you stay there. If you stay there, I don't know, an hour, 2 hours, how much you're gonna pay for that, how to enforce it, and also what I told them was how to make it more convenient, because they're saying, well, they might use an app, but by the time I park and I download the app, I gotta remember my password for my iCloud. I gotta create a new user for the new app and enter my credit card information. I mean, you're making it so difficult for parking that. So I told them about that. So they are working on that as well. I attended a class about crime prevention at a city near Houston. I don't remember right now actually the name of the city, but really close to Houston, and they're doing it by providing some better landscape on the property, having some murals, trying to engage the community to be outside, to talk, to play, and that supposedly is going to help the community with crime reduction. And so kind of that was their what they believe. They're working on that. What else? Yeah, I think those were the ones that I remember right now. So.
Great. Thank you all. All right. So the last item, any future agenda items you'd like to see on the agenda? Nope. Then the work session is adjourned at 6:46 PM, and we will meet over for the evening session at 7.